So the 2021 Call of Duty season has come to an end after a very exciting finals, a very exciting champs, and a very well-deserved win for the Atlanta FaZe after a very strong season for those guys over the course of the year. But in this video, we're not going to be talking about 2021 because it's over for the CDL. Instead, we're going to look ahead to 2022, and we're going to talk about some players who are in challengers this year and some of the top prospects who you should be on the lookout for their names as we approach roster mania. Because when you think about it, roster mania is going to start very soon. In the case of the Seattle Surge, it already has started. They have wiped away their entire team. So there's going to be a lot of exciting young prospects coming up, and you're going to see their names talked about a lot as we approach roster mania. So I want to get you familiar with some of these names you should be on the lookout for as we approach some of these guys being signed. If you enjoyed this video, definitely leave a like down below and leave a comment as well with your thoughts on the video, and subscribe to the channel as well if you want to see more videos like this one from me in the future. I do appreciate all of your support so very much, and let's hop right in. First up, we have some disclaimers and 3 honorable mentions. The disclaimers are these are not going to be already well-established pros who have had a lot of time spent in the pro scene. So guys like Methods, TJ Halley, Slack, Decimate, the list goes on and on. Guys like that, they will not be here because they're already well-established pros and nobody would really be surprised if they're going to be up next year. But instead, we're going to focus on the guys who don't get as much credit and don't get as much love, but they definitely have a lot of potential. And then 3 honorable mentions. So first, we have ProLoot. He was an SMG player, started the year for that New York Subliners Academy team who played really strong at the beginning of the year, and he ended his year with a win at Challengers Champ. So, good SMG player, really good at Search, good in-game leader, all of that. ProLoot is definitely a prospect to watch. Next up, we have Nero of the LAG Academy team. He was one of their 2 SMG players. He was very strong this year. He looked very promising. He has a lot of potential. He plays very fast. High slaying abilities, good at all modes pretty much, had a lot of success with that team, and it was a really structured environment, and he sort of shined in that. So I think if LIG would build around him on their pro team next year, they would not be silly to do that, in my opinion. No pun intended with silly there. And finally, Casey Pander from the where he was with the Seattle Surge last year in MW. He was in a horrible situation there. He didn't really play the best, but nobody really played well in that situation. This year he was with BBG. He played very well on that AR role. One of the best main ARs in Challengers, and definitely could be looking at him to potentially get back in the CDL next year. Now let's get into the top 5. Kicking us off at number 5, we have Sib, who you may know as the substitute player for the Atlanta FaZe. So he is coming off technically a ring for him, even though he did not play, of course, at all for the FaZe this year, but he does get a ring. So hats off to Sib. Congrats to him. But he's a very talented player. We all know that. He's been talked about a lot throughout this entire season because he is super talented. His gun skill and his movement is just insane. Watching this guy move around the map, it seems like it's like he's an aimbot sometimes. He just zaps on somebody's head instantly. Like as soon as he looks at him, he's right in their head. Centering is phenomenal. He's just a very talented player. That raw gun skill, kind of like a Dashy. I mean, he's not Dashy, of course, but just somebody who, when you think of gun skill, that's who you think of, or just general game skill. Sib is one of those guys. He is phenomenally talented. He went off in Challengers Champs. Watching his team play was insane. I think they only got maybe top 8 or so. They didn't have the best placement, but that was not due to his fault whatsoever. I was watching, Zuma was co-streaming some of the matches. It was just so fun watching him cast over Sib because he was just popping off. He was definitely hard carrying his team at times. Sometimes he was the only positive member of his team in the respawns. He was doing it all. Again, he was hitting so many headshots. His gun skill, his aim, everything is just so fun to watch with this guy. But of course, there is the attitude that we all know about by now. So you might say he has the best talent in Challengers. You might be right there. But we do know from earlier in the season when he was rumored to be getting picked up by the New York Subliners, he was on the flank with Zuma, and he definitely has some attitude problems. It sort of seems like he does not have his head in the right place. Sometimes he can get arrogant, get overconfident, whatever else. He does not want to listen to the pros around him. So pros might not want to team with him because they don't want that environment around their team. But if he can tone that in, if he can let somebody sort of mentor him, take him under their wing, help him calm down a little bit and just stay focused on his gameplay and his communications and being a good teammate, he can be phenomenal. So if teams want to take the risk with him and his attitude, it would pay off with his skill. So I think there's a very good chance we can see Sib in a starting lineup as soon as next year. Next up, we have Spart, also a guy who started the year with the New York Subliners Academy team, just like ProLoot. They sort of were the duo all season long, one of the top duos in Challengers, and then he ended his season as well with that championship at Challengers Champs. He was the Challengers co-MVP of the 2021 season, Crone from CDL Intel on Twitter did a vote. I actually got to vote in that, and he was on my first team as well. He was a first-team AR and was voted a co-MVP along with somebody we're going to talk about. So he was really sharp in Challengers this year. He was in a really bad situation in 2020 with the LA Gorillas in the pro scene. I think he played poorly, and he knows that. He admits to it, but it was not a good environment for somebody new and young to the scene to succeed. There was no real structure there for him. So it was going to be rough, and it was. He had to run an SMG, which is not his preferred thing like I have there. He is a true flex player. He can run the SMG, I think. He did it in the CDL, and again, he did not have much success, but that could have had more to do with what was around him than necessarily his own downfalls. But he's a true flex player. He can bring out that SMG if he has to, but I think he's most comfortable in an AR. But still, he is a phenomenal player, very talented, plays fast pace, very good at search. That's a common trend with a lot of these challengers guys, very good at search. And I think there's a very high chance, I would almost bet on it, that we will see him in the CDL again next year. At number 3, we have a guy I've been vouching hard for pretty much all season long. If you've been following my videos, I know that not many, but if you have been, you know I'm a big fan of Tom Gravity. He is a very talented main AR. I think without a doubt he is the best main AR in the Call of Duty Challenger scene, and he has been, you know, for more than 1 year now. He had a lot of success this year in Challengers. A lot of that did come early in the year when he was with that Western team. They had a lot of success. They won like 4 straight cups to start the year. He also, I think, won stage 2 or 3 of the Elite with Easter. So overall, very good team, or a very good player. He's had some very good teams this year, and he has had good placements, but his individual talent is off the charts. He's a really good main AR. He shoots very straight. He moves around the map well. He has pretty good communications. He can get frustrated at times and let it affect his comms, but for the most part, he can keep a level head, have good communications, and be a good leader for his team. He's a smart player as well, and the Pro League for this guy is just long overdue. He's been doing it at the top of the Challenger scene for too long now. I think it would be criminal to not have him in the CDL next year. There are some main ARs in the league who I think he definitely has more potential than. You could even say he's just straight up better than them, but his potential is sky high. If there's teams wanting to take a risk on a young AR who could get them over the edge next year and push their ceiling higher, I think they should not look any farther than Tom Gravity. At number 2, we have Pentagram of Built by Gamers, one of the best Challengers teams all season long, and he was definitely the standout player from that team, in my opinion. They were in the top 3 of Challengers, whether it was Cups, Opens, or Elites, 10 different times this year, and they were second place at Challenger Champs as well, so they had a lot of success over the course of the entire season. But this guy, he stood out for sure. He was voted the co-North America MVP for Challengers alongside of Spart, of course. He's an SMG, but he's very, very versatile. It kind of reminds me of like Neptune a little bit. You've seen Neptune in the Pro League either use an AR or just pick up an AR from the ground and just fry with it. Pentagram is capable of the same thing, so he could be a flex player. I think he's definitely suited for an SMG role, but if he gets in that role or that situation where maybe there's a third AR that has to come out for whatever reason, he can definitely be that guy. He's just a very strong slayer. His movement's very strong. He moves around the map well. He's a smart player, good at all the modes. What more can I say about this guy? He has all the talent in the world, really. He has a good head and his shoulders. Everything points to this guy being successful in the Pro League, and I think we should see it from him next year. So when these names start being announced and these teams start making roster changes, I think Pentagram is going to be one of the first Challengers players who we see his name come off the board. Before we get to number 1, I did want to leave another disclaimer that I forgot about earlier. This is only North America Challengers prospects, just because I did get to watch the EU some this year. I know there's a lot of talented guys over there who probably will be in the CDL next year, but I did not watch them as closely as North America, so I can't really speak on their skills as much as I can about North America guys, but definitely like Nasty, Harry, a bunch of guys over there. There's a good chance we see them next year in the CDL, but I'm just focused on NA for this video. Anyway, number 1, we have Yeez, somebody who I've been a fan of for a while now. He had a very strong year in Challengers. He was 9 times top 3 again. He had second place in one of the Elites. I think he might have got second place at 2 Elites actually with Laura. They might have won one. I don't even know, but he had a lot of good placements in the Challengers this year. He was signed to the Florida Mutineers. I don't know if that contract goes through this season. He was signed because they needed a substitute after they dropped Slack so he could compete in Challengers Champs with his teammates. I do not know if Yeez's contract goes through next year or just ends now, but I think we could see him with Florida next year regardless because he's a very good player. He's a very aggressive SMG. His movement is phenomenal. It's not shotsy, but it's just sort of that similar style of player where he can break your ankles, he can put a lot of pressure on you and get you in bad situations very fast. He's also very, very good at search and destroy. I didn't really realize it, but back in, I think it was stage 3 of Challengers, he was on UT Crew, they were elite at search. They could not be beaten. And I thought it's because they had Major Maniac on the team at the time, because of course we all know Major Maniac is a very good search player. But then towards the end of the Challenger season with Lore Gaming, they were also one of the best search teams in the league as well. I think they were the best Challenger search team. And there's only one common denominator there, and it's Yeez. He was on both teams who were the best at search throughout the Challenger season. He himself is a very good individual search and destroy player, and it shows with the success he has had with his team. So he's good at all modes, but I think he's definitely good at search and destroy, most definitely. Anything about it with Florida, even if he's not signed through this year, he could make sense as a Havoc replacement, because I think anybody would agree he probably has more upside than Havoc and can build towards the future more. But also Havoc, where does he do his best work? Search and destroy. Where does Yeez do his best work? Search and destroy. So it can make sense in that regard to sort of have him replace Havoc. He's probably better in respawns, and he's not really any worse in search and destroy. So if he's not with Florida through the next year, maybe they're going to think about it. I think they should think about it. I think we will see him on Florida next year. But regardless, he is the #1 North America Challengers prospect prospect, in my opinion. So that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, definitely leave a like down below and leave a comment as well with your thoughts and who are some prospects you are looking out for to be in the CDL next year. And also subscribe to the channel as well if you want to see more videos like this one from me in the future. I do appreciate all of that more than you will ever know. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a good day today, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.